Hello, fellow bibliophiles, and welcome back to Blatantly Bookish. I'm Marissa, and today I am here with my Jane Austen July 2021 TBR. I had such a hard time narrowing down what I want to read for Jane Austen July this year. I have many options and I plan on sharing a whole bunch of them with you in this video. So for the first challenge, which is to read one of Jane's main 6 novels, I will be reading the group read-along books, which are Mansfield Park and Persuasion. I'm really excited to read these two with all of you guys out there who want to participate. We have a Goodreads group going, which you should check out. I will put the link below, and a tight reading schedule for these two wonderful Jane Austen novels. These two are the books that I'm least familiar with, and I'm very excited to revisit. For the second challenge, which is to read something by Jane Austen that is not one of her main 6 works, I am torn between revisiting an old favorite, Lady Susan, which is Jane Austen's novella all about a snarky, older protagonist, if you can call her a protagonist. Perhaps she's actually the villain of sorts, who's this woman who's just conniving and manipulative and so fun to read about. And I'm considering also for this challenge reading Jane Austen's letters, which I have never read before. However, this book is quite the massive tome. It would take me the entire month to read and would be more than just one challenge, I think. So perhaps I will dip in and out of the letters and also get to read Lady Susan. The third challenge is to read a work of nonfiction about Jane Austen or her time period. And for this one, I have narrowed it down to a biography, but I am torn between 2 biographies. What else is new? I can't seem to make decisions this month. But the first one I have is Jane Austen, A Life by Claire Tomlin. I've heard great things about this biography, and Claire Tomlin is known for just writing excellent biographies in general. Haven't read anything by her yet, but can't wait to. And I just think that this would be a fun and comprehensive rendition of Jane Austen's life. The other biography that I'm leaning towards is the real Jane Austen, A Life in Small Things by Paula Byrne. I've heard amazing things about this book in particular. It is a biography about Jane Austen, but what it does is focus on different objects from her life and examine those historical artifacts to get at the interiority of Jane Austen's mind. I think it'll be really fun to learn more about Jane Austen and her family and the time period through some objects that she actually owned and interacted with. The fourth challenge is to read a modern retelling of a Jane Austen novel. For this one, I had to do a little digging to find something that wasn't a Pride and Prejudice retelling, and I had a few options. I read a lot about The Beresfords by Christina Dudley. Apparently, it is a Mansfield Park retelling, but I read the back of the book and I just wasn't particularly interested in it at this time. It's still something to look at if you are getting sick of Pride and Prejudice retellings. But of course, there's also Sonali Dev's Recipe for Persuasion. It's a Persuasion retelling, but it's unfortunately a sequel to a different book, which I haven't read, which is Pride and Prejudice and Other Flavors. The back of this book starts out with the line, "It is a truth universally acknowledged that only in an overachieving Indian American family can a genius daughter be considered a black sheep." So it sounds like it does a lot of very interesting things with Pride and Prejudice, and perhaps replaces strict Regency class society with the strict expectations of immigrant parents. I read the back of the sequel, and it seems like it focuses on entirely different characters, so I might not actually have to read this one first. Any insight on this would be greatly appreciated, of course. And just in time for Jane Austen July, actually, Sonali Dev is publishing the 3rd book in this series, In Sense and Sensibility comes out on July 6th. So I imagine it will be a retelling of Sense and Sensibility and possibly have some overlap of characters within this series. But yeah, this is a series that I definitely want to check out, and what better time to start than Jane Austen July. I do have some other choices for the fourth challenge because I went to the library and was bombarded with Pride and Prejudice retellings, so I did take out Unmarriageable by Sonia Kamal. This book is a Pride and Prejudice retelling set in Pakistan, which sounds like a really interesting twist to Pride and Prejudice. At the library, I also picked up The Heiress by Molly Greeley. This book is all about the character of Anne de Bourgh, and I love when a book looks at a character that is not fully explored in another book and just expounds upon their story. Anne de Bourgh is an interesting character in Pride and Prejudice, and there's just so much we could learn about her and the way her life turns out. We actually know very little about her throughout the course of Pride and Prejudice. The other Bennet sister, which is behind me somewhere, does a similar thing for Mary. It looks into Mary's life and shows a side to Mary that we don't always see in Pride and Prejudice, and I'm hoping that this book does something similar for Anne de Bourgh. The fifth challenge is to read something by a contemporary of Jane Austen. So that would be somebody writing in her lifetime, give or take a few years. For this one, I toyed with the idea of reading The Female Quixote by Charlotte Lennox, but ultimately decided on something a little shorter and a little more applicable to reading Mansfield Park, and that would be Lover's Vows by Elizabeth Inchbald. It's the play that they put on in Mansfield Park. Apparently, it was quite scandalous at the time, and I think by reading it, I will take away some interesting parallels between that play and Mansfield Park, and perhaps gain a greater understanding of Mansfield Park in general. There are free copies online at Project Gutenberg and on other websites as well, so I'm looking forward to it. The sixth challenge is to watch a direct screen adaptation of a Jane Austen book. So I'm a bit annoyed that my streaming services don't really seem to have too many of these right now. There was a time when they had tons of Jane Austen adaptations. I did a little research though, and it seems like the 2008 version of Persuasion is still on Amazon Prime. So I will probably check that one out. I don't know if I've actually watched any adaptation of Persuasion before. So I would love to be able to watch the 2008 version and perhaps the 1995 version of Persuasion if it is in my library. I'm also tempted to just rewatch some of my old favorites. The 1995 BBC Pride and Prejudice always calls to me this time of year, and I absolutely love the movie Love and Friendship, which is not actually about the work Love and Friendship, which is one of Jane Austen's juvenilia pieces, but is instead the story of Lady Susan. So if I could read Lady Susan and watch Love and Friendship, that would be amazing. And last but not least, challenge number 7 is to watch a modern screen adaptation of a Jane Austen book. There's a newish movie on Hulu called Modern Persuasion. I watched the trailer and I'm not really impressed, but I'll probably still watch it when I'm in just the right cheesy rom-com mood. And I was looking just in general on YouTube, and Bride and Prejudice and From Prada to Nada are both free with ads on YouTube, as is the 1997 version of Jane Eyre, which has nothing to do with Jane Austen, but I just wanted to mention it. So that is plenty for me to choose from. This is an over-ambitious TBR. I'm sure I will not get around to all of these things. Have you read or watched anything that I mentioned that is on my TBR? If so, please help me prioritize what I should read. Clearly, I haven't finished making all of my decisions yet, and July is quickly approaching. I would love to hear in the comment section what you plan on reading for all the different challenges. Are you participating with our group read-alongs? So please let me know all of the details about your upcoming Jane Austen July plans in the description below. And until next time, I look forward to seeing you in another video very soon. Bye!